Hey there nerds, how are we doing? Welcome back for part 2. If you haven't checked out part 1, I would probably go and do that first, because this will all make a lot more sense with that context. So, once your pages have dried and you're happy with them, you need to scan them back in, upload them ready to drop into your PSD file. So just drag that ink wash layer right in, drop it on top of your canvas, and then, spend a minute trying to make sure that you've lined it up perfectly with the existing assets. Set the blend mode of your wash layer to multiply. Push all that tone down on top of our photo assets and should create a pretty interesting blend. If you feel like your line art or your ink wash isn't sitting heavy enough in the composition, it's really easy just to duplicate the layer and then adjust the opacity until you feel like things are looking like you want them to. And then, there is also the option with Kyle brushes once again, if you need to hit some finer points or want some real specific textures, you can always use some of those brushes to augment this stage as well. As always, make sure you're chucking everything you do on a new layer. This is also the stage where you might want to experiment with adding a couple of different textures. For this one I got a bunch of different metal scratch textures and metal patina textures to put in the mix with things as well. You could do this as like a whole page effect if you wanted a paper texture, or you can go through asset by asset. That's what I've done with this one to make the different elements have, a different textural feel, help separate those planes a little bit more. So by the time that's all done with, hopefully what you have is something that looks a little bit like this. Ink wash ready to go, textures in place, line art done, and now we're on to some digital chicanery. I quite like it like this. I think it leans into the whole raw vibe of it all. Raw. What we've done up until this point is the simpler side of things, but the more time-consuming elements of the project. This is where things start to get a little more complicated digitally. So you need to make a copy of your original base image. So hopefully you've got that in a folder. So you can just right-click it, scroll down to Merge, hold Alt or Option, and then click Merge. That should give you, above that folder, one layer copy of that image. What you're going to need to do then is set that image to screen or overlay. Normally screen. I like screen better. Then we're going to want to put a mask on it. Once you've masked it, use the fill tool on black to get rid of the entire image. And it should almost look like you've essentially done nothing. Next, we're going to use a relatively soft edge white brush, nice low opacity, and begin to paint back in with white onto that mask some of the key highlights and image details. Again, the idea here is to draw attention to the areas of the panel that you want viewers to really focus on, the important parts of the image. Right? If you look at the way I've used it, I've primarily used it to bring out character faces, really hit those 3 tiers of foreground, background, middle ground, and to highlight the golden ratio diamond and visual hierarchy I'm kind of going for with this one. Every kind of step we do from now, as well as making it look cooler and more complete, it's also about creating harmony and balance within the image so that people only see what you want them to see. To really hit the kind of sharp lines that I was looking for with this piece, I actually then duplicated that screened layer a second time and did another pass, just to bring out some more of the highlights that I really wanted to see. So this next step is quite similar to the previous in that we're putting a mask on and only revealing the bits that we want, but this is actually a tip, a little trick that I learned from Justin Randall. So we're gonna put a new layer above everything, fill it with black, alright, then we're gonna put a mask on it, set the blend mode to multiply, and lower the opacity to like, I don't know, 40-50%, whatever you reckon. It's going to change based on what you yourself are working on with this process. Once that's done, we're going to use a combination of gradients and brushes again to really make sure that all the key aspects of this image have the chance to jump forward with their highlights, and what it'll do is all the background bits that aren't as essential to your composition This will help them recede further into the background and create more depth within your image. If you are using this process for like a comic page with multiple panels and you don't want any bleed, all I would do on that mask layer is use the marquee tool or the polyagonal lasso tool to block out each panel and then just hit the gradient so that they're only affecting each panel individually. Alright, that's looking pretty cool. What we're ready for now is to start adding some color. So color will be the next chapter. Stay tuned.